Hang on. There we go. All right. I guess we're back since May for our Ravens Hall of Fame game review and our preview for week 2 of the NFL preseason. So, had a list of questions kind of go over, or topics, I guess. So, I guess I'll go over the first one, and I guess we can go ahead and tackle the big elephant in the room, the offensive line. Joking. Quarterbacks. All right. So since Joe Flacco did not play this week, and Vince, you won our little bet, so now we're back to even. What do you guys think of? Let's start with Robert Griffin III. What did you think of him? And I'll start with Al.
I mean, it's tough to get a read for guys in the first preseason game, especially when it's the Hall of Fame game. I mean, I think he did everything that you want him to do. He ran the offense. He threw a touchdown pass. I mean, if he doesn't have that drop from Perriman, I mean, there's no interceptions, and then he had a drop by one of the other tight ends too. I forget who dropped the second pass for RG3, or he has a great game. So I think
It was
RG3 did
Boyle.
everything you're
Nick
looking for.
Boyle.
Boyle
Yeah.
dropped it.
Yeah.
So you get two drops for RG3. I mean, otherwise RG3 looks the best out of the group, but that's what you expect from RG3 being a veteran in the league. So I thought RG3 played well. I don't think he played well enough to make the team just yet, but I think he played well in the first game. So he just got to make progress from here.
All right, Bill. What do you think? RG3.
Yeah, I say the same thing Al said. He didn't do anything to make me think he couldn't do the job if we had to do that. But if we see Lamar Jackson play progressively better the next 4 games, I mean, they can say they're going to keep 3 quarterbacks right now, and Griffin certainly hasn't done anything to embarrass himself. But I just don't see it with the depth that we have at outside linebacker, at corner, at running back, wide receiver and tight end. They got to figure out the numbers with that. I just don't see them using a roster spot on a third quarterback.
All right, Vince.
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep it short. I pretty much agree with you guys. He looked like a capable NFL backup to me. I mean, certainly somebody who you could trust, and obviously you can't read too much into the first preseason game, but I thought for being off a year, he looked pretty capable. So, but to me, I agree with Bill. The last thing we probably want to do is keep 3 quarterbacks, but I think that really won't depend on RG3. It's going to depend on Lamar. It's 100% dependent upon our trust in Lamar in being the backup quarterback. I don't really think RG3's play really factors in the equation that much. I mean, I think we know what we're getting, and he is that insurance policy. So I don't really have much else to add there.
All right. I guess my thoughts. I thought he played pretty good. I agree with everybody there, but he was a little rusty out on the field. That definitely showed that year off. But the way he ran the offense, I thought was pretty good. It's kind of an old preview of a better Lamar Jackson maybe in week 2 or week 3 of the preseason. But I thought he did pretty good. I think I disagree with you guys. I think they will actually keep 3 quarterbacks because one thing we did see, and we'll get to Lamar in just 1 second, is him running the football a little more than he should have. I think they want somebody back that can still run that offense if he does get hurt. So I think they do keep RG3. I think we'll see a little better play out of him here in week 2, but I didn't like him. All right. We'll move on to my number 32 pick in the first round, Lamar Jackson, Action Jackson, as I like to call him. I guess I'll kick this one off since he was my favorite pick there in the first round, and I also predicted it. Thank you. I'll go ahead and kick off with him. Look, he obviously looked like a rookie. He obviously had some issues, but he came out there, and I thought he moved very fast. I thought his release was a little bit fast. which was good because he looks like he was popping around in the back. When he got nervous, he took a sack and he should have thrown the football away. That's more of a veteran play than a rookie. But I think overall, it wasn't what I was expecting. I'll be honest with you. I was expecting a little bit better play out of him, but it was good. It was only a preseason game. It was only the second half, really, of this game with a crappy offensive line that, for the love of God, could not block anybody. So I'm more excited to see him with the ones and see what he does than judging him on this week. So hopefully he'll get the second quarter start with the first round guys. We'll see. But Lamar Jackson, to me, a little bit less than what I expected, but overall, I'm very excited about him. I think he could run this offense. I think he's fast. I think he's good. I still like him a whole lot. I like him better than Joe Flacco. I'll give it up to Vince next to give his thoughts.
So, Rob, I want to propose something here.
Oh, here we go.
We're, early in August. We've gotten through the Hall of Fame game. Can we move on from your notion, your dream that Lamar will be starting week 1, barring injury? Can we move on from that? Are we ready to move on, or no?
I'm going to say no. I still think there's a possibility of Lamar Jackson still coming out in that very opening play and starting. We have not seen Joe, I'm too slow, Flacco play yet, or trip over myself, or big putter finger hands. So, yeah, there's still a chance. And he is going to be playing week 1, by the way. So he is going to be in there about 10 to 15% of the offense. So,
all right, Rob, let me stop you there, Rob. While it's great to have, great hope for Lamar Jackson. I mean, he's the first round pick. The Ravens gave up some picks to move up to get him in the first round, and he's the future. But the reality is, Joe Flacco is the right now for this team. John Harbaugh's playing for a job this year, I believe. There's no way that anybody on that coaching staff is going to trot a rookie out there and really hitch their career to a rookie when you have a proven NFL starter on your roster that at the end of the day has won a Super Bowl. And he hasn't been healthy in the last 2 years. So you get a healthy Joe Flacco back. And even if Joe Flacco can play at a mid-level, I think that this defense will be good enough this year. This was a 9-7 football team last year, so a couple of bounces the other way. I mean, and this could be a 10, 11 win team. I think they're coming back with better skill position players than what they had last year. And what we'll talk about a little later is they just really need to figure out this whole offensive line thing and get this offensive line to shape up so they can protect Joe. And Joe's going to be the starter. I think they're going to have some gadget plays out there, but that whole we're going to throw the football down the field to Joe Flacco ain't happening.
All right. Well, let's stick to Lamar. So let's stick to him. Let me give Vincent the mic, then Al, then Will. So go ahead, Vincent.
All right. Well, look, if you're not going to move off of that, then let's just talk about Lamar. I mean, his play, obviously, he was exactly what I expected. I mean, the thing that you really don't, either you have blinders to, Rob, or you just don't understand is that we are literally rebuilding this kid from the ground up as a pocket quarterback, pocket passer. We are working on everything from his footwork to his mechanics, his release. Everything needs to essentially be rebuilt for him to be what we all hope and expect him to be. So, I mean, you see it. I mean, he still is in the position now where, I mean, just calling the plays and orchestrating the offense is a big win for him. And, when I saw him play, I don't know what you saw about him playing fast. I thought he played a lot slower than I thought because it's obvious he's still mentally processing everything that it needs to happen for him to become an NFL quarterback. So, the bottom line is I am not looking at him through a lens of, whether he can start and be a NFL caliber starting quarterback this year, because I think that is just a ridiculous even notion that become this year. Now, obviously we all have hope for him. So I just want to see progression the rest of the preseason, and his goal should be to ensure that we don't have to keep 3 quarterbacks. That is his goal this preseason, and that is what he needs to work towards every week. Get a little better, show you can run the offense, make good decisions, and more importantly, I mean, he has to look and make some more accurate, precise throws, especially in the pocket, or else he will never win in the league. So that is what you need to start seeing. But look, I don't need to see it all overnight. So I didn't really have an issue with his start. I think you just got to build from it and hope he can get into a position where he can win the backup role and we don't have to keep RG3.
All right, let me ask you a question because I always like to do this. This week, preseason game against the Rams, does he over/under throwing 2 touchdowns?
I don't care, Bill. You get in here and talk about Lamar.
Actually, Al was next. Throwing it to Al. Go ahead, Al. I guess no over/under for Vince. Al, if you want to answer, over/under 2 passing touchdowns against the Rams, but go ahead. Give me your thoughts.
I'm with Vince. I'm over the Lamar Jackson discussion. I think that this has just been something that the national media loves. I mean, Lamar Jackson was the hot pick, but he's going to be the backup. So I mean, if he could throw 10 touchdowns in the game on Thursday, and he's going to be the backup quarterback this year. I mean, could he throw 2 touchdown passes? Sure, he could, but I'm probably going to push this one.
If he throws 10 touchdowns, it's going to be a fun game to watch. I mean, I'm happy that if he throws 10 touchdowns in what should have been the first preseason game. I mean, the Hall of Fame game, that's the thing about the Hall of Fame game. I mean, I had a good time watching it, and I was happy with some of the things I saw and excited about some guys that I think maybe step up. Like Willie Henry. I think Willie Henry is about to do some stuff this year. And so like, it was fun for that kind of stuff. But I mean, for the most part, after like the first series or 2, or even in the first series or 2, both our team and the opposing team, none of the guys who have a realistic chance to make this team, like this was the bottom of the roster type guys. So like, yeah, it was cool seeing RG3 go out there and do whatever. But if he can't play against those guys, he doesn't deserve to be on the roster. So like, he didn't do anything spectacular, although I did not expect anything spectacular from RG3. I just thought, we're not going to keep 3 quarterbacks, in my opinion. So whatever. Like, RG3, nice job. Like, if Flacco goes down there this season, maybe we'll give you a call and you can be Lamar Jackson's backup. As far as Jackson goes, he looked like a rookie in his first game, and I didn't expect anything other than that. I mean, he looked like he was thinking a lot. Like he was trying to make throws when there probably was a place that he could have run. And so he looked hesitant to run. Like, he got caught one time by like a white linebacker, and I was like, come on, Lamar. So like, I mean, I think he was hesitant. Whatever. Like, he's a rookie. We're not going to see him once the season starts, other than in like the occasional 2 to 3 gadget plays maybe per game. And I'm not even sure we're going to see him that much. And Rob's talking about 15%. We are not going to see Lamar Jackson for 15% of this offense under no circumstances, in my opinion.
Okay, well, that's one of my predictions. So I'll take that one away for the next podcast. And the next podcast, I'll get proven right. We'll come back and I'll say, look, I was right again.
I think aggregate, barring an injury to Flacco, if Lamar Jackson, we got to come up with some kind of a bet about like per snap. If Lamar Jackson plays 15% of the snaps in this offense this year without a major injury to Flacco, I don't know what to tell you. Like that is not going to happen.
Okay, that is going to happen, but we'll move on from that. I'm going to throw this one out before we get into the wide receivers, but I'm guessing everybody's on board with Cut Pearman. Just get rid of that guy. So everyone get their
I don't know, man. It might be too early to give up on him. I thought Kamalei Correa was dead to me, man. And all of a sudden, he's making every play under the sun. Now, take it with a grain of salt because those same scrubs I was just talking about in the conversation a second ago were playing when Kamalei Correa was playing too. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. But I'm telling you, he knows his job is on the line. Correa.
Hold on. We're not talking about him. We're talking about Pearman.
Right. I understand.
The man who dropped the football again.
Why is he still on the roster?
That's the question.
We don't need to spend any more airtime on Brashad Perriman. He's gone.
I swear to God, if I was Steve Bisciotti,
enough.
If I was Steve Bisciotti, I would have left Brashad Perriman in Ohio. I would have been like, Brashad, here is $65 for a Greyhound ticket. I am sorry that it did not work out with the Baltimore Ravens, but I can no longer wait for you to stop dropping passes over the middle and tipping it to the other team.
Hold on. Wait one second. You already paid him a $620,000 roster bonus.
No, I don't want a grievance. I don't want a players' union grievance. I'm like, hey, man, I gave him $65 for a Greyhound ticket. I even gave him the address. I Googled that shit. I told him where the Greyhound bus was. But, hey, it's not my fault he didn't get home. Whatever. I told him.
All right. I'll move on then. Let's move on to the offensive line. Obviously, Marshall Yanda's back, and he actually did practice this week. We got Stanley up on the left-hand side. Any thoughts on Brown? Any thoughts on Will Hernandez or any other offensive lineman? And what's your confidence level in this offensive line this year? And I'll start with Al.
I mean, as long as they don't have any injuries early, I think the line's going to be good. I'm just interested to see how it shakes out. I thought that Brown played well in the first game. Just watching him out there block. I think he's got to get a little bit more bend to him because he seemed really upright in a lot of cases. But I mean, he held his ground. He's got NFL strength. He's just gonna have to work on some of these speed rushers that he'll see in the regular season, especially in Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Cincinnati, the teams that we play every year. But I like Brown. They need Brown to start. They need Alex Lewis to be healthy. I like the offensive line with Lewis and Yanda at the guards and Skura at center. I just don't trust James Hurst. I thought he was serviceable, but as they move down the line, I'd prefer Skura to become a starter. And Brown, I mean, that's asking a lot on the offensive line, but you know Yanda, Alex Lewis, as long as he's healthy, and Ronnie Stanley are going to be three of the starters, and you just got to round out the rest. So they just need someone to step up.
All right, so let me throw a little fact that your Pro Football Focus has got the Ravens offensive line ranked 18th last year in the NFL. Do you think that improves this year?
Barring injury, yeah, I don't think they're going to jump up. I don't think they're going to jump up there and be a top 10 offensive line, but I don't think you necessarily need them to. I think if they move up 5-6 spots, I'm happy with that.
All right, so 5 or 6 spots that would put us towards a Cleveland Brown or Green Bay Packer offensive line. You'd be pretty happy with that type of movement.
Yep.
All right. We'll throw it to Will. Offensive line, what do you think? What's your confidence level?
I'm pretty confident in the offensive line. It could shake out a few different ways, and I would be fairly satisfied. For me personally, I like James Hurst at left guard. I would take either Hurst or Lewis at left guard. But I have more confidence in Lewis playing center. I thought Skura got kind of handled in the game the other night, and those weren't good players they were playing against, and so I didn't think Skura looked particularly good, and I did think Brown looked pretty good. He is slow-footed. Like, you can tell he's like a lumbering, big, doofy guy, but he was quick out of the snap, I thought. Like, it was not a long time for him to get into his set. Once he was in the set, he's going to have a hard time with, like, true speed rushers. And there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, look at, like, whatever, Phil Lodeholt, Phil Lodeholt couldn't handle, I don't know, if you put him against, Von Miller or something, Phil Lodeholt's going to have trouble. But Phil Lodeholt also plowed open running lanes for the Vikings running backs year after year. And so, like, Brown may never be all world and may never be able to handle on an island with elite speed rushers, but the list of guys that can do that in the league is short no matter what you got. So, like, I thought I was not pleasantly surprised. I felt like Brown looked about like what I thought he was going to look like because I really liked him. I was very happy with that pick. And so I thought he looked good, in my opinion. Skura, not so much. So if I'm calling the offensive line just based upon like what I know and the little bit that I've seen in this calendar year, I would have Stanley, Hurst, Lewis at center, Yanda, Brown at right tackle. That would be my starting five, and then I would have Skura off the bench as like a backup at all three interior positions.
All right. Let me throw a question at you. Total pressure surrendered. The offensive line last year gave up 138. Does that decrease, stay the same, or does it go up?
Well, I think that's going to be greatly dependent upon injury. If we get an injury, especially at tackle, we're going to be in trouble. But I would say it's going to go down. Although it's going to get skewed somewhat again if they, depending on how they count pressures, if Lamar Jackson does see any kind of significant snaps. Like if because he moves out of the pocket, does that count as a pressure for whoever it was that flushed him? Like, I don't even know, because so that's going to skew the numbers if that, depending on how they grade pressure. But yeah, I would say, if we start Flacco all year and our starting five stays relatively healthy, I would say that number would go down.
All right, just got to give you an example. Tennessee Titans, the Buffalo Bills, and the Oakland Raiders all had under 138 pressures. All right, Vince, you're up offensive line, confidence level. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm overall optimistic. I'm probably a little less optimistic than you guys, but not too far. I mean, I Orlando Brown, completely agree with your guys' assessment. Obviously the speed will be a problem. We'll see. I mean, I think the one thing for me, Will's offensive line, I think, is the best five we have. So I think that is what we're likely trying to do, is get the best five better linemen than Skura. So if we try to do that, I could see that. But I really think offensive line is something that I think we're going to address through free agency if we don't see this depth step up in any way. I think late in camp, as you get into preseason game 2 or 3, and even maybe beyond. I mean, we've classically signed offensive line late in training camp. I mean, I can think back to a few of the past ones. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but we've done that historically. But I really think that could be something we address late, because the depth does not look good at all to me, and I'm really concerned if there are an injury or two. I am not liking what I'm seeing behind it. So overall, pretty confident, but I'd be a little bit lower just because of the depth, and I really think we need to address something with looking at this, who gets cut late, or somebody usually shakes free that we got to take a look at possibly addressing for depth.
All right, let me give you your question here for the offensive line. Joe Flacco gets sacked plus or minus 20 times.
1 second. The guys that we picked up, we picked up like Willie Anderson, real late.
Yeah.
We picked up Bryant McKinney in September.
Bryant McKinney.
So,
yep,
yeah.
That's right. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, they grabbed two guys last year too on the offensive line. A little later on, those trades that they made.
Yep, we seem to always get some veteran depth, so I really think we need to be honest. And I don't know if it's going to be interior or at right tackle. I mean, I think we'll just see what's available. I mean, you can make a case if you plopped in a starting, center, then I think everything kind of falls into place. But where do you get that from this late? I mean, I think, if Alex Lewis can play center, maybe you get a guard, play left guard, and then, you have Orlando Brown starting and Hurst is your swing man. I mean,
I have to imagine if they were going to, from my perspective, if they were going to make a move, it would be a tackle. I would think they would try to find a tackle, if anything, because we drafted Siragusa early last year, although his who knows what his knee is doing. We drafted like a Luminor, who's kind of a guardish right tackle type guy. So we've drafted a bunch of guards that Siragusa, I think, was a 3rd round pick, wasn't he? Or maybe a 4th, but
Yeah, I could see that, especially if we are still concerned about Orlando Brown and the speed and handling the speed rushers. But yeah, you got to see. I guess we'll see what's available.
Well, you got William Betty, offensive tackle from the Eagles, age 33, and Chris Clark, offensive tackle, Texans, age 32. Let me go back to my question to you. If that offensive line is to hold up, Joe Flacco, is he getting sacked a lot or not?
No, I don't know what number you threw out, 20, but
I said 20 plus or minus 20 sacks.
It might be very close to that number, but no, he needs. Yeah, hope if we can protect Joe, that is the key to unlocking this offense, I think.
I agree. That's why the offensive line is probably the most important thing. All right, my thoughts. I think center might be an issue for them since we have no real clear veteran in there that's played well. I think the tackles and the guard positions, I think they're actually okay at, especially if Yanda back. But I think center is a place of concern. But from what I'm reading, I think they're going to run some outside zone running. So I think as we move on to the next question, which is going to be running backs, I think their plan is to run this football this year and try to limit Joe Flacco a little bit and even Lamar Jackson when he's in. So, in my opinion, confidence level, if we were 18th last year, I think we do move up to like maybe 15 or 14, but not super confident in the offensive line. I agree. I can see a veteran coming in, but center is kind of a concern for me. All right, let's move on to running backs. We got Alex Collins, Kenneth Dixon, and Allen back there. What's your confidence level in those guys? And should we be looking at another running back even? Because Dixon, I don't know about that guy. I'll start off with Will, since you love running back so much.
It would greatly depend upon what was available to us as far as looking at other running backs. But I like the 3 running backs that we are featuring. And I thought, I don't remember the kid's name now, but I thought the kid that played early in the Hall of Fame game looked explosive. He was only in there for a handful of snaps or whatever, but there was a kid early in the game that I thought looked nice at running back. As an undrafted free agent. So, I think Collins is better with a better offensive line in front of him. If Brown shakes out and somebody steps up at the center, whether that be Skura or Lewis, I think the running backs are in for a big year collectively. I don't know if any one of them will get a huge year, like a marquee type back year. But I think collectively the production level is going to be high because I think not only is Harbaugh committed to the run, and whatever the guy's name is, Roman was brought in as like the run game emphasis, whatever. I think all of those are paying dividends. Even last year we saw it, somewhat. And so, if the offensive line stays healthy and Brown develops the way that we hope he will as like a road grading type, tackle, that the sky's the limit as far as the production goes, because I like Collins, as like a workhorse type back, Dixon, I think, is a more talented player than either one of the other two backs. Whether or not he actually is able to stay on the field and show that and not be suspended and not have a hamstring pull or whatever, we'll never know. But I think as far as raw skill goes, Dixon is the most talented of the three. And then why the fuck can I not remember his name? Whatever the third guy's name is. Yeah, Buck Allen. Thank you. I think Buck Allen is a perfectly good change of pace back. I think he's nifty out of the backfield on third down. He's more of a slashing type. I kind of like what he brings to the table. I think all three of them are talented in their own right.
All right, let me throw a question at you. Alex Collins averaged 4.6 yards per carry last year. Is he over or under that this year, you think?
I think it probably comes down a little bit just because the other teams have a year of tape as him as a featured back, and so they'll know, okay, he does these things well, so we're going to try to cut those off in this year or whatever. So I think that number might come down a little bit, but I think maybe over the entirety of the year he'll actually be more productive. I don't know I don't have his stats in front of me, but he got just under 1,000 yards if I remember right, and I can't remember how many carries. But I think he could be an 1,100-yard type back, 1,150, maybe 1,200 even. On a not an insane amount of carries. So he's going to get the full year to see what he can do, unless Dixon just takes the job from him because he's talented enough to carry the load.
All right. He had 202 attempts for 973 yards and 6 touchdowns. 6 touchdowns there.
Yeah, so I think maybe the carries goes up a little bit, numbers go up just a little bit, but he could maybe get some more touchdowns than he got last year.
All right, Al, your thoughts? We got Collins, we got Allen, we got Dixon. Do you want another running back? Do you like these guys? What are your thoughts?
No, I think you need to just. I think they're going to roll with the guys that they have. There's really not a lot out there from a running back perspective. We've got 4 preseason games left, so I say let's see what some of these young guys do. Mark Thompson, the kid out of Florida. I like Buck Allen and Alex Collins, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of carries after those two. I mean, Buck Allen can catch the ball very well out of the backfield, and Kenneth Dixon isn't going to be trusted with these continuous injuries. I mean, I think he had a hamstring issue again today after just coming back to practice. So you can't count on Kenneth Dixon. I mean, he's a guy on the roster, and you'd love to see him do well. And I think the team's counting on him kind of returning to that rookie form. But I think you've got to rely on Buck Allen and Alex Collins until you can see Kenneth Dixon do something. And I think Kenneth Dixon could just end up getting bypassed by one of these young rookies if they can show that they've got the talent. So I'm excited about the running backs. I mean, to the point that was already made, it's going to be tougher for Alex Collins. I mean, it is for every running back once you hit that second year, because people know what to look for now. They've got a full year of tape on you, so they're going to be keying on Alex Collins in this offense, and that's where Flacco and these new receivers have got to step up even more, so they can't key on Alex Collins.
All right, let me give you. I was going to ask DeMarco Murray, but he announced his retirement, so forget him. In the running back case here, do you see this offensive line and Alex Collins over 1,100 yards rushing?
No, I don't think he's over 1,100. I think he'll get over. I think he'll surpass 1,000. But just the way that the Ravens offense moves the running backs in and out, I think Buck Allen's going to get a lot of carries, as well as a lot of third down work. And if Kenneth Dixon does come on, there's just not going to be enough carries to get Alex Collins to 1,100 yards.
All right, Vince, your choice. Your same thing. Running backs. You like them? Should you get a free agent? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm still good with the three we got. I don't see any reason yet to have to address it. I mean, even some of the young guys. I mean, some of the undrafted. This guy Gus Edwards or whatever had a decent day, but to me, Alex Collins, I think's the truth. I think significant, like all pro level efficiency there. So that's going to be hard to do again. But he impressed the hell out of me late in the year. So I'm excited and hopeful that he can take the bulk of the work. And I don't see any reason why he can't be a 3-down back in this league, because he's decent in pass pro, and he can certainly catch the ball. So, to me, Kenny Dixon, I agree. I'm still excited about him. I just, he's got to get on the field. So that's always a problem. You got to get on the field. If you're not on, you can't play. So, we'll see if he can fight through this hamstring and prove that he can be the backup, because to Al's point, I don't see everyone keeps forgetting about Buck Allen, but he is a perfectly capable change of pace third down back. He also is a great guy to salt leads away in the fourth quarter. If you're up big, you can just give him the ball out, 10 times in the fourth quarter and call it a day. So, I think there is enough promise here that, obviously if Kenny Dixon becomes a problem and he gets hurt significantly or doesn't come back, then, you might have to worry about depth a little bit. But at this point, I think we're good with the three, but I really hope that Alex Collins gets a chance to be featured. And I think if we commit to him, I think we'll get a big year out of him. I can see 1,100 yards. So, for that question, I would go over.
That was my question for you. Here's my question for you. If Alex Collins were to be injured, what is your confidence level in Kenneth Dixon, Buck Allen running the football with Joe Flacco quarterback? What's your confidence level then?
Ask me at the end of preseason, but not very good, to be honest. I think Buck Allen is a perfect complementary back, but he certainly can't be relied upon. At that point, if Kenny Dixon's back and rolling, though, then ask me in 4 weeks. But I think at this point, without Kenny Dixon, really, I was hoping this would be the year. But, you got to – hopefully he gets on the field soon and got plenty of preseason left. So, I'm not going to make any judgments right now. So, right now, not very good, but ask me in 4 weeks, I might feel a little better.
All right. I guess I'll give my thoughts real quick. I like Alex Collins. I actually like Buck Allen a whole lot. In fact, I think Buck Allen is the number 2 running back on this team, and Dixon is in the 3 spot. I'm kind of hoping they actually cut Dixon. I'm sorry, Bill, man. I think the guy's a bum. Sorry, Vince. The guy, I just don't like him at all. Get him off this team. Draft me somebody else. Go get me another running back that's actually good, that can actually play a season, possibly. But I'm not on the Kenneth Dixon bandwagon. I'm on the cut. He's like Pyramid to me. He's dead. He's dead. Just leave him. You leave him. Yeah, you heard me. Yeah, I see your wow. Yeah, just leave him.
Come on, man.
Leave that guy. He's a bum. I'll take Buck Allen any day of the week. He's great. I would take Alex Collins. Go ahead. You want? Yeah, I was having a rebuttal. Go ahead.
No, you're perfectly entitled to your opinion. Kenneth Dixon certainly hasn't proven it on the field. I mean, he's shown little flashes here and there, but he's been suspended. He's been nicked up. He's been hurt. You know, he missed the season. Like, you know, like he hasn't earned a spot on this roster. I just think based upon the production in college, the game he played in college, the little flashes that you've seen here and there, I just think he's super talented. I mean, if he got squeezed out, I mean, I'm not going to cry myself to sleep. You know, if he got cut at the end of the preseason, I do think I would keep an eye out for him where he signed to see if he ever did anything else. You know, I would be like, ooh, you know, he might have a shot there. Like, I would think he's super talented. But obviously, I mean, he's got to do it on the field. The only thing that matters is what you do on the field. You know, so like, I mean, we can hear about how great Perriman is every single year of his whole career. Oh, man, this guy's practicing like an all-pro. It looks like Julio Jones out here. And then he gets in the game, and it hits him in the helmet like a fucking movie, you know, like a comedy out there, you know. And, he's just soft and fucking terrible. Just leave him in Cleveland. But, you know.
I feel the same about Dixon. Leave him. Have a buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not ready. I'm not at the same place with Dixon. I think he's been snake bit a little bit. You know, he obviously, you know, he did it to himself with the whatever Adderall or whatever horse glue or whatever he was sniffing on. But, you know, for the substances. But, you know, hamstrings and stuff like that. I mean, that happens. These guys are professional running backs trying to get into, like, tip-top football shape. You tweak a hamstring, what are you going to do? You know, you got to take it easy for a couple weeks. Try to come back too soon because you're trying to make a team that has, you know, a couple other running backs you're trying to show you can be, you know, counted upon or whatever. You come back a little too soon, tweak it again. You know, I mean, that shit happens. So soft tissue injuries are touchy like that. You got to get to all the way rehabbed and stretched out and stuff. Obviously, I have no insight into what Kenneth Dixon's training regimen is. I did think he came back, but he looked fat to me when he came back from suspension that one time. And so, you know, I was irritated at that. But he looked slim down to me. You know, they showed him the other night, whatever. But you know, we'll see. We'll see. He's got to do it on the field. That's all that matters.
All right. Well, again, leave him in Cleveland. All right. Well, let's move on to wide receivers. I'll just give a quick rundown. Most of the guys are going to be on this roster, most likely, at least on the bubble. Perriman gone, leave him in Cleveland. Chris Moore, Tim White. You got Quincy, Crabtree, John Brown, Willie Snead, Posey, Jamil Scott, Jordan Lansley. Those are going to kind of be the wide receivers. How many do you think we carry? It's going to be the question. And should we sign Dez Bryant? That's a big question that's going on out there. It's a big rumor for us still. But let's just start with who we already have. So, Vince, you have the wide receivers. I'll let you go first. Don't worry about the Dez question first. But
how could I not? You and your big rumor tease.
Yeah, let's go with Crabtree, Brown, and Snead. Going to be the most likely three wide receivers. Are you keeping Moore, White, Quincy, Posey? Obviously, you're going to keep Scott and Lansley. But who do you like on this wide receiver group we already have?
Yeah, I think this is going to be real interesting. I mean, there's some numbers there that we got to work out. Yeah, obviously Chris Moore, I think, is a lock. I don't at this point. I mean, he's too valuable. You know, special teams. I mean, receiver. He's clearly shown he can be a competent wide receiver, and I actually would be interested to see him out there a little more. But it'll be hard for him to get playing time. But he's a lock. You know, Tim White's really making a strong case at this point to be considered not a lock, but I would say he's on the right side of the bubble if it were today. I don't know if that's possible, but I mean, he's basically looks like the returner, and he's shown flashes at wide receiver by all counts. So I think he'll be tough. And then you have the two rookies. You know, this is where I think, you know, I don't see any way we do anything with Jordan Lastly. He's definitely on this team. You know, he could come up with an injury late in camp. You know, could tweak something, and we can try to sneak him on IR. You know, I think it'll be, obviously it's early. That can all change. But, I think that, and that right there puts us at 7. So could we keep all 7? I think, we'd have to make a surprising cut at tight end, I think. I think that would mean Max Williams and or Boyle, one of them might be gone because I don't see how you can keep 7 receivers and 4 tight ends. I mean, the numbers just don't work at some point. So we'll see how it shakes out. I think it's going to be tough for anyone else to crash that 7, though. I mean, to me, it's whether we keep all 7 or not.
Let me throw my question at you. Does John Brown play all 16 games, you think, this year with us?
The historical money would say absolutely not. And but to me, I don't know that I need 16 from him. If I can get 13 really good ones from him, or 12 or 13, and they're John Brown type performances, I think we have some guys that can step in and play that deep role. I mean, that would just give Chris Moore an opportunity, a little bit. So, I don't think it's that. He just needs to largely stay healthy throughout the year. I don't need 16 from him, but I think he's the wild card to me. I mean, Willie Snead, I think, will be Mr. Reliable for us, and if with him and Joe, I think that can be a really good connection. And then Crabtree is going to be the alpha one. So to me, the wild card's John Brown, and what can he? Can he stay on the field? And if he can, it looks like him and Joe can work some fireworks this year. So, we'll see. I mean, I think that's a big question. 16 from him.
All right. I'll give you one more just on the side. Over under 1,000 yards receiving for John Brown.
Under.
All right, Al, you're up. Wide receivers. Who do you like? Are we going to keep 7, 8 wide receivers? Going to keep 6? What are you going to do?
8.
8. You ever know?
Keeping 8.
Sean
I think my money's on 7 at the wide receiver spot. I think they're going to lean on these rookie tight ends this year, and I think Max Williams gets cut, barring the team using Nick Boyle in like that H-back fullback type of role. Then I think they'll keep 4 tight ends too. But I think we all know who the top 4 are. I mean, the top 4 are Crabtree, Brown, Snead, and Chris Moore. So those are going to be your top 4 receivers. And then I agree with the comments Vince made. I think they're keeping the 2 rookies, Lashley and Jaleel Scott. So it really comes down to that last spot. And I think just based on what Tim White did last year, what we've seen his potential is, I think Tim White gets the 7th spot. So I think they're cutting everybody else, but I think you have to keep 7 in this case. One, because I don't think John Brown plays the full season either, to jump in on that question. I don't think he ever has his entire career. So you've got to make sure that you have some extra bodies on the active roster. And I think just they'll try to pass some of these younger guys over to the practice squad, or I think they may, if there is someone else that they like, I think they're going to try to IR him at the wide receiver spot. And I think that IR candidate is probably going to be that kid Janarian Grant, who's the solid kick returner, because I don't think they can keep him on the active roster.
All right, Michael Crabtree, over under 1,000 yards, over under 7 touchdowns.
The 1,000 yards is going to be tight. I think he's over 7 touchdowns. I think the 1,000-yard piece is going to be the piece that's going to be tight for him. I think he comes in just under 1,000.
Okay. All right, Bill, you're up. Wide receivers.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said for the most part as far as the top four guys go. I think it's clearly going to be Crabtree, Brown, Snead, and Moore. And if I was looking at how like as far as usage goes, in order to get the highest effective volume out of Brown, I would use Brown between the 20s. Big plays, try to throw it to him deep, get him wide open in the middle of space. Once we got inside the red zone, I would bring in Moore as the third wide receiver. So I would have Crabtree, Moore, and Snead on the field in the inside the 20. Just Moore is a little bigger, a little bit bigger target. Won't have to take the big hits for Brown, etc. As far as the down the roster type guys, I agree. One of the tight ends is getting cut. I don't know whether it's gonna. If it was me, it would be Williams, because I think Boyle has shown enough. He's got grit as far as being a blocking tight end and that kind of stuff, and he's shown more in the passing game than I really expected out of him when they drafted him. And so I think Williams is the odd man out. I don't think they're going to keep both the rookies. I think Lasley is a lock to make the team. I think Scott is a prime candidate to have the mysterious hamstring tear or whatever the thing is that they give him, so that he can sit on the bench for a year and learn how to play at the NFL level, because he's so big, but he hasn't really grown in his body yet. He's all weird, like he's just gangly and stuff. So, I think he's talented, and they definitely like what they see as far as catch radius goes and that kind of thing. But he was just in New Mexico State or wherever he played. I watched the limited game tapes that were available on YouTube and stuff of him, and he was just so much bigger than his opponent. They were just lobbing it up, and he's just out muscling them, which is great, until you start playing guys that are 6'2" and 6'3" across the middle who are run faster than you and stuff. So I think he's a prime candidate to get a year, but I think Lasley looks explosive. If depending on how Brown shakes out as far as injury goes, or, if he's available all the time, I think Jordan Lasley is the kind of player that could step into that same kind of role, be like the electric, volt that makes the offense, the other things, those Crabtree 8-yard and 10-yard, in routes work, because he's taking the top off. So I'm excited to see what he does against better players, because not only has he made a couple of catches that made me go, wow, that was a nice catch, but he just looks super fast and sudden out of his breaks. He just looks like he's going to be able to separate at the NFL level. So we'll see how it shakes out in the preseason. And I think of the as far as the sixth spot, I would keep Tim White. Tim White is super valuable as a return man, both punt and kick return, and then he can provide a little bit of offense if you need him to play wide receiver. He can do that.
All right, let me throw a question for you. Willie Snead, over under 600 yards, over under 5 touchdowns.
The touchdowns is hard to predict, because he's not going to be the number one target on very many end zone routes. I don't think, he's more of a move the chains type, middle of the field guy. So you'll sneak a couple of them in, and he might get a deep one, because he's better. He's quicker than what he gets credit for. I think he's 600 yards. I think that's probably about right, just because of our offense. If we were a more prolific passing offense, I would say that Snead would get more than 600. And I think, and now that I say that out loud, I do think he probably gets more than 600. I think he's probably in like the 750 to 800 type range. 5 touchdowns is probably about right. I'll go over. I'll go over on both. I'll say 800 yards and 6 touchdowns is what I would say for Snead.
Wow. All right. I guess my turn on wide receivers. I guess we all agree. Like Crabtree, like Brown. I don't think Brown plays all 16. I think he's more of a. I got a bad feeling Danny Woodhead type, where he's going to be playing 5 or 6 games and he's not going to play the rest. So I'll agree they're going to keep an extra wide receiver on this team, probably because of John Brown. I'll agree with Tim White. I'll agree with Chris Moore. Willie Snead, obviously. I agree with all those guys. But this wide receiver core does not have a dominant number one, doesn't have an AJ Green, doesn't have a Julio Jones type of person that demands a double coverage, that demands attention on the field. So in my opinion, I think they're going to look at Dez Bryant. If they offer Dez Bryant a deal, it's going to be pretty cheap, but I'll come back to that in a second. My over-under for this team of Joe Flacco throwing the football, and all of you have said this, which is really sad, not one wide receiver over 1,000 yards. That's pathetic to me. So I'm going to say, I guess on my question is, I think Chris Moore shows up. I think Chris Moore actually ends up with over 500 yards receiving and 4 touchdowns. It makes a bigger difference than I think then maybe John Brown, who might be 600 yards and 3 touchdowns, because I don't think he plays more than 6 or 7 games, man. So I'll split the difference of those two guys. We'll move on to tight end because it's really only Hayden Hurst out there at tight end. So I'll just go through what you like about Hayden Hurst and over under 800 yards receiving for Hayden Hurst and over under 5 touchdowns, Hayden Hurst. So I'll start with Bill because I can see your face. So the other two I can't. Go ahead. Give me your Hayden Hurst.
I don't understand how are we saying that only Hayden Hurst is the only tight end we have? Like, we just drafted Mark Andrews in the 3rd round. Like, I'm expecting Andrews to produce.
Has he played yet?
No, I mean, if we're not counting on him, I mean, what are we counting on? Are we seriously, like, if we're not counting on him at all, if it's like, oh, he's not going to be in our plans this year in any way, then there's no way we're going to cut Max Williams. You don't think
he's not going to be in our plans? You
don't think Mark Andrews is in our plans?
I think he might be going to IR. That's what I think he might be going to IR. He's got a soft tissue problem for the last like 6 or 7 days, man. I'm just saying. That's what I think. I like Mark Andrews.
Rob,
I'm just saying.
Out of your mind, man.
He's already back at practice.
It is August 7th or 8th. What day is it? 8th. Yeah. It's August 8th, man. No, it's the 7th. It's the 7th. You're jumping the gun here, man. You're jumping the gun. Like, oh, he tweaked the hamstring, so let's cut him. Let's put him to IR on the first week of camp. Like, dude, we have 5 preseason games this year, and we played one of them. I mean, I don't know what you mean. I don't even know how to respond to that. They're definitely not IR and Mark Andrews because
I'm just saying soft tissue. In my opinion, I think the guy.
I think you might have some soft tissue injury yourself, man. It's like
and we'll see if my prediction comes true. But let's go back to Hayden Hurst. We'll stick with him. He's kind of the focal point. Flacco loves the tight end, so
I agree that Flacco loves. Okay, all right. Hayden Hurst, I'm not ready to write off Mark Andrews as a number 2 tight end, but Hayden Hurst, I thought, like, he looked like a player that is athletic enough to make plays at the NFL level. He reminds me of a Chris Cooley type, player. If he can do more than Chris Cooley as far as the blocking game goes and make more plays in the red zone than Cooley made, that could be a pretty nice player. I'm not prepared to say that yet because he did not have touchdown production in college. And so until he shows, that he can do it at the NFL level, I have no reason to believe that he's going to be productive in the red zone. We'll see how that shakes out. But
did he catch a touchdown in the red zone this past week?
Rob, the sun shines on a dog's ass every once in a while. That doesn't mean that he's going to be a touchdown machine. He's not Gronkowski because he caught – oh, man, he's 1 for 1. He's going to get 16 touchdowns in the regular season. I mean, it's just like we'll see how it goes. He had 3 touchdowns in his entire football career at South Carolina. So, great. Great, he got one. Let's keep getting them. I mean, I hope he is Gronkowski. Like, come out and be the best tight end in the league. Fuck yeah, I'd love it, man. I mean, that's the best. The ginger, I gotta come up with. I don't know what it is. Ginger Spice.
It's Thor.
I don't know what his name is yet.
Thor.
But
call him Thor.
No, I'm not calling him Thor. That's
that's what they call him when the field is Thor. But over under 800 yards, 6 touchdowns over under.
For Hurst?
Yeah.
Definitely under 800 yards.
Okay.
What'd you say? Six touchdowns, you said?
Yeah, 6 touchdowns over under.
I'm going under also. If I had to guess, I'm going to go 550, 600 yards maybe for Hurst. And I'll generously say 5 touchdowns. I really want to say 4 or 3 even. I mean, I'm just saying the dude had 3 touchdowns in his entire career. You got to do it on the field before I'm going to give you any credit.
All right, go ahead, Al.
I mean, Hurst had 3 catches, 14 yards. He caught a touchdown. I like the slant that he ran and just him plucking the football out of the air. I mean, hopefully he can continue to catch the football like that. But my expectations aren't high just yet. I mean, he's a first round pick, so he's going to carry some expectations with that. But I mean, how many tight ends have come into the league even in the first round and put up an 800-yard, 5 touchdown season? None. I mean, what was that O.J. Howard that everyone wanted last year? I mean, I think he was under 500 yards for the
season. Flacco loves the tight end. And you remember Dennis Pitta was pretty much around 800 to 900 yards receiving, about 6-7 touchdowns. That's why I'm saying that number.
I think Flacco loves the guys that can get open and that he can trust they're going to catch the football. So, I mean, while he loved Dennis Pitta, I mean, look at how much he threw Steve Smith the ball when Steve Smith was there, because Steve Smith could catch the ball. So he threw it to him. I mean, Joe's had the unfortunate luck of having the Brashad Perrimans of the world that when they put him on the field in a 3-wide set, I'm not throwing that guy the ball because he's not going to catch it. I think he's got something different with Michael Crabtree, with John Brown, with Willie Snead. I mean, these guys are bona fide NFL receivers that can actually catch the football. So I don't think he's going to be force feeding passes into a rookie the way he did with Dennis Pitta. I just don't foresee that happening. I think he's gonna spread the football around this year, and try to push it down the field now that he's healthy a little bit more. And it seems like John Brown and Michael Crabtree are the favorite targets early in camp.
All right, so that means you're under 800 and you're under 6 touchdowns. Is that right?
Absolutely. I'm under 500 for Hayden Hurst.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. I'm just giving kind of Dennis Pitta kind of numbers because he loves that tight end position a lot.
Yeah, but Dennis Pitta had 1 catch as a rookie, and Todd Heap had 16. Now, I know Shannon Sharp was there, but, I mean, our rookie record for a tight end is Max Williams had like 32 catches and change. So, I mean, like, to put out that he's going to, all of a sudden, this guy's going to get 60 balls for 800 yards and 6 touchdowns, like, that's just not indicative of our history with tight ends, either good or bad.
Go ahead, Vince. I know you're ready.
Yeah, and look at tight end production in general. I mean, I think even first-round tight ends have struggled across the league in terms of putting up yardage. I mean, it's just not a position that's conducive to it, and most of the time you have to basically learn all the run line calls, all of the blocking scheme, and you have to learn all the routes, and get the timing down with your quarterback. So there's a lot that goes into the rookie tight end position where, I'm not expecting those type of numbers. But with that said, Hayden Hurst impressed me. I think he moved a lot better than I had envisioned him coming out. And even on the tape that I saw, I thought, there was a chance it wouldn't translate to the NFL. Now, granted, the level of competition needs to be accounted for, obviously, but I thought he moved well, and he was very handsy. I was encouraged by his first start. And I like what I see out of him, and I think he can develop a nice connection. So all of the things that you're saying, Rob, I agree with in terms of what Hayden Hurst can be for this offense. But when you just talk about the numbers, he's not going to put up 800 yards in this offense. It's just not happening. he won't put up 500. I agree with that. I mean, I mean, he may get close to the 500 at the most, and that would be a great year for a rookie tight end. I mean, that would be a monster year if he had 500 yards. And you figure that's got to be at least 45, 50 balls. The touchdowns, it's so hard to predict. I mean, I think he could get to 5. I mean, so I might push that, but overall, I'm encouraged by what I saw. I'm not Mark Andrews. I've already read he's back at practice. He's looked good in a few practices from what I've seen in some of the notes I've read. So, he's going to be the seam stretcher. He is going to be a difference maker. And I can't wait to see him play. But seems and that he's made a few big plays down the field since coming back to practice. So that is an element of our offense that's needed. I mean, yeah, John Brown, you get the vertical, outside, but to be able to stretch that seam with some speed, and I think they'll flex him out too. I think you can definitely see a lot of Mark Andrews flexed out. Kind of like, and you don't want to make this comparison right now, certainly, and you don't want part of it to end up like this, but it's sort of like the Gronk and Hernandez that the Patriots drafted. I mean, and I'm not ready to crown these guys that yet, but in terms of the style of play, I definitely see Hurst being able to handle some of that in line, which people don't talk about Gronk, but he's a hell of a blocker, and I think he can handle some of that in line. And Hernandez be that, or Andrews be that Hernandez type move tight end that you can split out, stretch the seam with. So don't sell him short. Boyle, Max Williams, I think Boyle's the more versatile guy, so he's definitely got the leg up. Max, I just haven't seen anything from. Maybe, yeah, they love his blocking. They hate giving up draft picks, so don't be shocked if he's on this team for sure. But I think he's expendable at this point.
All right, so you are under 800. You're under 6 touchdowns. Is that correct for Hurst?
Absolutely.
All right, I do like Mark Andrews.
One more thing. I think you got to throw Ricard in there as a wild card because, I mean, he's shown versatility to play fullback. He could do some, like, blocking tight end in the goal line packages. And he's, from all accounts, been playing extremely well on the defensive line at practices. So a guy that's that versatile, you got to put him in the wild card mix somewhere. Like, does he take a player away from fullback / tight end? I don't know, but he's definitely one of Harbaugh's favorites because he talks about how great he practices all the time. So I'll leave it at that.
No,
that's a great point.
Yeah, I think everybody appreciates it. That's a good point. So Max Williams could be off this roster. But I'm sticking to Hurst because I think Hurst will probably be the number one. I do like Mark Andrews. Just haven't seen him yet. I just got a bad feeling that he's going to get put on IR or something. But I would like for him to play, so don't get me wrong. Now, back to Hurst. I looked up Flacco's numbers. Flacco is he stares down his one wide receiver he likes to throw to 500,000 times because I watched his targets and numbers. He doesn't spread the football around. So he does like the tight end a lot. So the tight end is going to be a big target for him. I can see Hurst actually coming out this year of 802 yards, 808 yards, and I think probably actually right on 6 touchdowns this year. So, yeah, I'll throw it out as a big, shocking surprise that the guy who threw Dennis Pitta the football 121 targets is probably going to get 60 or 70 of those targets, and he's probably going to make 50 or 60 catches. So I think Hayden Hurst actually does break your little barrier of not making over 800 yards. I think he does, and I think he ends up with about 6 touchdowns on the year. Now we'll move on to the last piece of offense, and then we'll move forward. This is an easy question. If Joe Flacco plays all 16 games, what is your expectations for touchdowns over under 25 passing yards over under 4,000. What to you says keep Joe Flacco next year? What to you says get him out of the lineup? And I'll start with Al.
So to keep him for next year, I mean, I think Flacco's thrown for over 4,000 once in his career.
I'll check that. I think once is correct.
So I'm going with the under on this one. I don't know if this year is going to be that big, and it's not just on Joe Flacco. I think they do want to try to run the football with Alex Collins, with Buck Allen. So I think we'll see a lot more rushing this year versus just letting Joe drop back and throw the ball 50 times. In terms of the touchdowns,
for you, like what for you as a fan, what's making you say, look, dude, you need to do these things to get this team going because you're tired of the crap we saw last year and the year before that and the year before. You know what I mean?
The passing yards aren't all on Joe Flacco. I mean, I think the passing yards in part are on the receivers too. And the Ravens have just never had that receiver that can give you like what an Antonio Brown or an Odell Beckham. They can take that 10-yard throw and turn it into a 70-yard touchdown or turn it into a 50-yarder. Joe just really has had the guys that can catch the deep ball down the field, and then that's it. But nobody that can take that short one and make a big play. So I'm going under the 4,000. But I think in order to make sure that this team is effective this year, he's got to throw more than 25 touchdown passes. If we want to be in the playoff hunt, Flacco's got to throw more than 25 touchdowns.
Okay.
Crabtree gives you that red zone target. I think he's had the most in the league over the last 3 years. I want to say he's got 30-plus touchdowns in the last three seasons. So I think Crabtree's gonna get looked at for a lot of those, and then I think the tight ends are also going to get looked at quite a bit once you get down into the red zone.
All right, so he's got to throw for you to keep him in or to be happy as a fan. You're okay with 3,900 yards passing and 25 touchdowns. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go next before I go to you guys because I'll make some controversy, so that's fine with me. Bull crap on this dude. You've been in his league for 10 years. He's more than capable of throwing, and he has actually, I think, for 4,200 yards. So for me, you got to throw 4,100 plus yards. For me, you need to throw 27 plus touchdowns because he's done it before. You need to throw less than 12 interceptions on this year, and he needs to have a 63, 64, 62% completion rate. I'm happy there. But he needs to throw for well over 4,000 yards, well over 27 touchdowns, man. Bull crap on this guy. We paid this dude way too much money and got nothing out of him in the last 3 to 4 years. I'm tired of it. And fans are tired of his crap too, man. So this guy needs to come out and he needs to play his ass off. He wanted to bet on himself. He did it once and won the Super Bowl. Fantastic. He had a great year. We were all thrilled with him. He threw 11 touchdowns in those 4 games. There is no reason this guy cannot come out this year and throw for more than 4,000 yards, more than 27 touchdowns. That I'm not happy if he's not over those numbers. Get him out. Get him out.
Rob, the one thing you know is he's going to be motivated. I mean, this is Joe's last year to get a big contract, another big contract. Because I think at the end of the year, I mean, if he plays really well, I think the Ravens, there's a very good chance they keep him. If he doesn't, he's gonna get cut, and then there is no even $15 million deal I think coming his way. So he's gonna be motivated. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Joe throws for over 4,000 yards and over 30 touchdowns. I mean, he's gonna be very motivated to go out with a bang and make a little more money before he retires.
That's my point. There's no excuse. In my opinion, there's no more excuses for this guy. None. Zero. Laugh all you want. Zero. You got no excuses for this bum. All right, Vince, you're up.
Oh man, always entertain me. I love it. Obviously this is a huge year for Joe. I mean, I feel like we've had this conversation how many times? So, I mean, numbers really don't matter to me. They do and they don't. I mean, the quality of play from Joe matters to me. So, you know, Joe's got to play high quality football, and that'll probably lead to the stats that you love to talk about, 4,000 yards or whatever, 25 or more touchdowns. Sure. If he's playing high quality football, I think he can get there. And and I don't think we'll be as ground and pound as people think. We will run the ball, but I think we have shown time and again that, we will do game plan specific things to open things up. And to me, I think that's the league that now. I mean, you can't run the ball 55% of the time, and win. Nobody does that anymore. So, but bottom line is, this is a huge year for Joe. It's more about him playing high quality football and leading us back to the playoffs. And, from what I saw of him in the second half of this year, combined with, all the motivation factors that you guys just talked about, I see no reason why he can't cast, and I see no reason why he can't have one of, if not his best years this year, statistically and quality of play wise. And I'm way more concerned about the quality of play. If for some reason, it's just a weird year and, Alex Collins runs for 15 touchdowns and Joe throws 24, but we're, 11-5 because we're crushing it and we're in the playoffs and we won the division and we have a home playoff game, then I don't give a shit how many yards he threw for.
Oh, so, hang on 1 second. Hang on, let me interrupt you. One quick second. So Alex Collins runs it for say 15 touchdowns, 1,200 yards. Fantastic. We all love that. You get into a playoff game, and the first team you face is the Jags, who only allow 82 yards rushing, and Joe Bum Flacco is going to come out there and throw the football. You're okay with that? 24
guess what? Joe Bum Flacco, that'll be January Joe Bum Flacco, and I will take January Joe anywhere, at any place, in any building, in any playoff game, and be confident. I mean, he's proven time and time again when he is in the playoffs, he is a different quarterback. I mean, and just go back to 2014. I mean, I'm not saying which is his last healthy year. You're talking he went into Pittsburgh, beat Pittsburgh on the road, had a real nice performance, goes into New England the next week, has two 14-point leads that our defense blows, and who knows what could have happened that year if we beat the Patriots. Yep. So, I'll roll with January Joe. Just he needs to play well enough in the regular season on a consistent basis, week in, week out, high quality play to get us in the playoffs. And I don't give a shit what his stats are. If he does that, then I think he'll be back next year. I think the contract is just too much to get out of to move on from Joe if he leads us back to the playoffs.
Sorry, January Joe's been missing in action. All right, Bill, you're up. Missing in action.
Yeah, I mean, the two best years that Flacco ever had, from my perspective, were the 2014 year and the 2010 year. Now, obviously, the year that we won the Super Bowl, he went on a ridiculous run at the end of the year and had the playoffs. But as far as the regular season performance, I thought that those 2 years he played, better, and even neither of those 2 years he went over 4,000 yards, and he got close in 2014. and 2014 was the only one that he went over 25. He had 25 touchdowns in the 2010 season, and so I don't expect us to get like some brand new Flacco. He's not going to come out and Aaron Rodgers his way down the field. That's just not what Flacco does. I do think that we're going to get the best version of Flacco that we've gotten with having the heat on him of a first-round pick and all that stuff. And, like, obviously, if he wants to continue playing after this year or next year, he's going to have to show out because eventually we're going to give the keys to Lamar Jackson. So, I think for this year – I expect somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000 yards. But if he goes over, it's not going to be very far over. I don't think, he was 4,300, I think, 4,317 in 2016. So, that's his high watermark as far as yardage goes. But he didn't have a good year, I didn't think. I mean, he only had 20 touchdowns. And so, I'm not going to get caught up in the yardage. If he doesn't get over 4,000, it's not going to concern me as long as I need more consistency out of him. Every single year, we sort of back into the playoffs at 10-6 because he lays an egg against a team that we should stomp their ass, and we don't stomp their ass, and it ends up costing us at the end of the year in the playoff configurations. And so, I would take a very similar stat line to the 2014 year, and just like don't shit the bed against whatever the Indianapolis Colts or whatever, let's beat the teams we're supposed to beat.
Okay, so that sounds like
right there is why statistics are bullshit, and especially as it relates to Joe functioning in this offense. His high watermark for yards, 2016, was probably one of his worst seasons. So, it's not about his numbers. It's about his high quality, consistent play. Like I completely agree. Can't shit the bed, in a game like that Jacksonville game a few years back or whatever. We can't have those, and lead us back to the playoffs.
Okay, still a bum. Let's move on to the defense. We'll do defense as a whole as the last part here. Obviously, the Hall of Fame game. You can give your thoughts, and your thoughts on this team going forward. We got a game this week too, but Suggs back. You got Judon, all those guys, all there. What's the weakness on the defense, in your opinion? And what do you like about this defense coming up? So I'll start with, I guess, myself. So for me, I think the weakness on his defense is Jimmy Smith because he gets hurt. But I like Jimmy Smith a lot. I think he's a great defensive back. It's just you get 10 good games out of him, 12, and then he's hurt for 3 or 4. It sucks because he is really good. But Humphrey on the other side, you got Carr, you got Young coming back off of ACL, so I don't expect him to be as fast as he normally is. I do like Weddle and Jefferson in the backfield. You got Suggs back for another year, but they're running more of a 4-3 defense, which I like a lot better than the 3-4 hybrid. I'm expecting this defense to be probably top 8. I'm hoping for this year because I think the defensive backs, if they're healthy, can really shut down some guys, and I think we'll get a better pass rush this particular year with Don Wink. I guess for me, I'm expecting this defense not to blow these at all like they kind of did last year and the year before that. I'm expecting a lot out of these guys. I think the biggest competition has got to be the inside linebacker. It's got to be next to C.J. Mosley. But if they're switching out to a 4-3 and they play more like that, I'm not so worried. So for me this year, I'm expecting a lot of things out of this defense. I'm expecting defense to carry us a little bit more than the offense. But I'll start off with Will. What do you think on defense?
I like the way our defense looks. I think that we are it's going to come down to injuries. If Jimmy Smith stays healthy, we're lights out in the secondary. If Jimmy Smith gets hurt for 10 games or 11 games or something, then, it puts us in a position where we're going to be a little bit more thin. I do think that we have the depth at cornerback to sustain a loss. And in fact, if it was me, I would base my roster around assuming that someone is going to get hurt, whether it is Smith or Humphreys or Carr or, even one of the depth guys, Young or Kennedy or whoever. I would base my roster decisions based upon you're probably going to sustain at least one injury in the secondary. And so, I think that I thought that Elliott looked particularly good. I liked him as a player coming out of Texas. I thought he was better than his draft position would have indicated, and I thought we would get more out of him, long term than what his draft position would indicate. But I thought he looked really good in the action that I saw him in already. So, he forced the fumble, and he forced it. It wasn't like, oh, my hand is in the right place and I slapped it out. He punched at the ball and got it on the button. So, he's fast, he's instinctual, and I thought he hit hard when he had the chance to. So, as far as the secondary goes, I'm feeling pretty good about it. The defensive line, again, if Urban can stay healthy, then I think we're pretty good. If Urban again gets hurt and we got to shuffle around and whatever Carl Davis is playing or whomever it is we try to plug in, they're not as good as Brett Urban is. So we'll see how that shakes out. I thought that Kenny Young looked pretty good at the inside linebacker spot as far as a coverage linebacker goes, and he looked like he was just making decisions and going. It looks to me as though Peanut is probably a little bit ahead just because he knows the defense so well. But I think that Kenny Young is probably the more talented player. So maybe, the season starts, we see a mix of, Peanut on early downs and Young in coverage situations. But I think maybe if Young plays well enough over the course of the year, he'll take that job. But I think our defense is looking pretty solid. It's just going to depend on whether Martindale is putting guys in the position to make plays or not. And we're not going to know that until we see the product on the field.
All right. Last year we were ranked 12 overall. Are we going up that notch? Yes or no? Are we going up or down, in your opinion? Are you going up higher than 12? You're going to be number 10 defense, number 8. What do you think?
I think that's probably about the right area. We could go up some depending on if we get lucky with like interception totals and those kinds of things that are just sort of happenstance. If we get a lot of tip passes, we do have a lot of tall guys, in our defense now. So, if we get some tip balls, lucky interceptions and some pick sixes and things like that, then we could scoot up those rankings as far as, because of turnovers. But as far as yardage goes, we've always, obviously the coordinator has changed, so the bend but don't break thing may have, gone by the wayside, but Harbaugh is still going to have a hand in the defense, and I think that's the type of style he likes to play. So I think we're going to give up yards in between the 20s. It's just, it's just going to depend on whether we can get home on sacks and pick the ball off, in situations in the red zone, where we end up on the rankings. Yeah, if I had to say, I'd say around that 10, 12, 8, maybe if we're lucky. That's what I would go with.
All right. Vince, you're up.
Yeah, I think the defense, I love I love where we're going. I think definitely agree with some of the earlier thoughts about, inside linebacker being probably the key position battle. I do think Kenny Young will give Peanut a run for his money. He definitely looked pretty solid out there in his first game. He was moving downhill, played well. I think he had a nice stop on a fourth down, if I remember. So, really Hall of Fame preseason game. So, I heard a lot of concerns about Jimmy. I mean, obviously, there's concerns about Jimmy staying healthy, right? But we have never been better positioned to deal with a Jimmy injury than we are this year. I mean, you know, talk about Humphrey, who I think will quickly emerge as a number one corner in this league. And I think he'll start to get that respect as quickly as this year. Brandon Carr is more than serviceable. I think he is still a solid starting cornerback in this league. So, we have the depth. I mean, Tavon Young, I think, looked great by all accounts. He's looking great in practice. I can't wait to see him when he is actually in the game. But I think we have, and that's not even talking about Kennedy, the Everett, the Alabama kid. I thought he played pretty well in the preseason game. I think we definitely have the depth to withstand the injury, the inevitable or whatever you want to call it. But, don't be surprised, if Jimmy plays 16 this year. And I think that's probably going to be my bold prediction because he is. And that is the first year that we can actually get out from underneath of it. And you have Marlon Humphrey, who's more than capable. Brandon Carr, who we would have another option year for next year at a pretty cheap rate for a starting corner. This is a prove-it year kind of for Jimmy. And I think it showed. I mean, the guy came back from an Achilles injury and full go from the start of training camp. I mean, you could tell he is motivated and he wants to prove that he can stay healthy for 16 and really become that elite corner that we all think he is. But if he could just put it together for a full year. So I think we might get the best Jimmy Smith, and that we've seen. And if that happens, then watch out. I think we got a deep front seven. Will, you mentioned this early. Willie Henry is going to be a name people are going to hear about very quickly nationally. We've all talked up Matt Judon with Bowser. I think as a movable chess piece. The one thing I thought interesting from a scheme standpoint for Wink, he played a lot of nickel. I think. I didn't see much 3-4 or 4-3, to be honest. I didn't see much base at all. Now, that could have just been the first preseason game, and maybe, we're responding to their personnel. But, I think that's always been an overblown portion. But one thing you can tell from Wink is he's going to pressure. I mean, it was the Hall of Fame game preseason, and he's sending pressures left and right. I mean, I was loving it at some points. Around the goal line, I remember him sending a pressure to break up a pass. I mean, we're talking in preseason. So that's an exciting element that I think could really unlock this defense from making that move from good to truly great.
All right. Over under this year, last year, the Ravens had 24 sacks. Over under Don, 35 sacks this year.
Woo! You gave me a number. I'm going to go over.
Over 35. All right. Very nice. All right now.
I think we're going to get pressure this year.
Okay. Hey, Denver had 52. Indianapolis had 56 sacks. So I gave 35 as a little bit higher number than we had the year before. Just to kind of see where you gauge that pass rush. So you got us over 35. You're seeing Suggs have a good year. You're still on mute. All right, Vince still on mute. All right, Al, you're up. Hit it.
Oh, that was to me.
Yeah.
I said over 35.
No, I'm saying you're seeing Suggs have a big year.
Oh yeah,
I mean, I agree with that.
Suggs
I mean,
is big.
typically you can
Uh,
tell what Suggs is going to do when just based on if he comes into camp in shape or not.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think we're going to get real good Suggs. Judon's the one I think that's going to be over definitely double digits. I think he may be the sack leader on the team.
All right, go ahead, Al. Your turn. Defense.
I mean, the defense in a nutshell. I think there's a lot of depth on the defensive side of the football, with the exception of the inside linebacker position and who's going to play next to C.J. Mosley. Um, I think Pierce is going to have to play a little better this year. I think he missed Brandon Williams when he was out with the injury last year. Hopefully again, Urban can play a full year this year as well. But if he can, I mean, Willie Henry showed last year that he was more than capable. So I'll be looking forward to see him take a step forward this year. In regards to the safeties, um, I like Eric Weddle. I think Eric Weddle's great on that back end. Tony Jefferson's got to step up and play better this year. He found himself out of place quite a bit last year with some missed tackles and things like that, and just where he had an opportunity to make a play on the football and he didn't. So I think Tony Jefferson's going to play a little better this year. I like the cornerback grouping, even if Jimmy Smith can't play 16 games. I think Marlon Humphrey showed he's more than capable of playing well. Brandon Carr, with the exception of that Steeler game, of course, where he got torched by Antonio Brown at the end of the game. We all know Brandon Carr can play. He played well all year long and gave 16 strong games. I'm excited to see Tavon Young come back this year and hopefully return to form. I want to see how Jalen Hill progresses. So I like our defense. Um, they definitely need to give CJ some help, and I think Kenny Young is the guy that the team is hoping will be the help. I am too, only because he's got some speed and he can cover. So he'll help them because that definitely hurt the Ravens down the stretch last year, as those linebackers just being out of place from a coverage perspective. On Wasu, I think Correa was just a flash in the pan against the poor third team or fourth team offense that was out there. I don't think Correa puts up those types of numbers at all during the season if he makes the team, or even even in some of the other preseason games. So I'm excited for the defense. I don't think that they'll duplicate the turnover piece, but I do think that they'll have over 35 sacks this year.
All right. Al, last year the Ravens averaged 18.9 points per game on defense allowed, plus or minus 18 points this year.
It's a scoring league now, and with this new helmet rule, I'm going plus because I mean, everybody's gonna have about three or four 15-yard penalties per game. So
That's good. That's an excellent point to put in there. I guess I'll throw it around everybody else. What do you think of the helmet rule? Go ahead and go, Bill. You want to go?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's poop. It looks like it's poop. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's hard. Like, you cannot – like, these guys are 300 pounds running full speed, trying to throw their body into another human being to stop their forward progress. The natural physiology of a human anatomy says that when you go forward, your head's going to come down. You can't do it any other way. It's just the way it goes. And so, like, you're going to see those penalties. If that's the way they're going to call it, it's going to be all year frustration of guys being like, what? All I did was tackle him, So, I mean, we'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, I mean, the helmet rule, it looks pretty bad, man. It looks pretty bad.
All right, Vince?
Yeah, I mean, I really hope they're saying they're going to take the preseason and call everything and then get together. But, I mean, this is the NFL and NFL officiating we're talking about. So prepare for this to be a disaster pretty much all year. But, You know, it is what it is.
All right, I'll throw out one last question. Yeah.
I got one more thing on the officiating. I don't know if y'all looked at that link that I sent to you the other day about the forward dive of the quarterback.
Yeah.
That's a big rule change that nobody has been talking about that at all. And I'm waiting for that article mentioned it specifically, the situation where the player is trying to get into the end zone and the quarterback dives forward and tries to shove that ball across, and all of a sudden he's down at the 1 yard line. That's gonna happen if they enforce that rule the way they spelled out in that article. And that's a big rule change that nobody's really mentioning is that.
That's actually a really good point. I did get a chance to look at that. So sounds like the quarterback has to slide. Is that correct? They can't just dive in head first.
It's not that they can't slide. It's not that they have to slide. It's that they treat a dive the same way that they do a slide. So a quarterback gives himself up when he starts his slide, he's down. So if he starts his slide at the 3 yard line or whatever and scoots his butt into the end zone, he's still down at the 3. Now a dive, it's treated exactly the same way. So if you start your dive at the 2 yard line and you dive out to try to put that ball across, you're down at the 2 yard line.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, that's going to make a big difference for a lot of Cam Newtons and guys like that.
Yeah, we just signed ourselves a shiny new athletic quarterback. I don't want them calling my quarterback down at the 1 yard line when he makes some kind of Superman dive into the end zone.
Yep.
Yeah, Tom Brady does that too. So there's just more than just Cam and those guys. That's a good point.
I mean, everybody does it. So terrible. I don't like the new rules, so we'll see how they go once the regular season starts.
All right, I'm going to get the last one here. Preseason game, obviously, Thursday night. Joe Flacco is going to play the first quarter. Does he need to score a touchdown? Is my last round the horn. Does he got to make a drive to get a touchdown? I'm throwing it out there. Don't laugh. Sit back.
This will be the lightning round. So the answer is no.
No.
It's the
preseason. You're no too. He doesn't have to get a touchdown in that first quarter. Any drive.
Come on, man. He's this guy. Come on. Really? Or what? What's the or what in that sentence? If Flacco didn't get a quarterback, didn't get a touchdown, we're gonna cut him and go with RG3 because he got one.
I'm just throwing it out there. Just wanted to see what your thoughts were, because unlike you guys, there are a lot of fans out there going to be like, get this bum off the field. He can't even get a touchdown in preseason.
Man,
not make a drive to get a touchdown.
That the fans do not make the personnel decisions for this franchise.
Are you sure about that?
Some of the opinions out there in the world of the internet are cockamamie, and I'm talking to one of them right now.
Well, Vince isn't talking, so relax. But listen, it does. So those fans are at the game, which I actually will be at the game. I almost forgot. Thursday night, I will actually be there to watch.
Listen to the heckling.
Yes, I will be in the Bank of America suite. So I will be there watching the game.
So there's going to be no heckling being done from the Bank of America suite. You suck, Flacco!
I'm there.
I may be there too, Rob. So
nice, excellent. Now
I won't be in the suite though. I'll be in the crowd with the fans.
Well, first of all, I am a fan, sir, and I'll be out there rooting for Lamar Jackson.
We know you will.
Yeah, that's right. You're going to hear all about Lamar Jackson. All right. Guess we'll wrap it up since it's like 11 o'clock now.
Yeah.
If you guys want to do another one next week, we can do another one if you want to. Next Tuesday.
I'll
probably wait a couple of
Yeah.
You want to wait for a couple of preseason games so you have to hear about Flacco?
Yeah, we should wait until what's the third game they actually play. Like let's do it after the third game.
After the third preseason game. I mean, we can't break down every preseason game.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be the same stuff. Oh, yes. Mark Andrews had a catch this week. He's going to be number one.
Over under 600 yards and 5 touchdowns for Mark Andrews.
2 catches for Mark Andrews in the third preseason game.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with wait till after the third preseason game. That's going to be the fourth game for us. No, the third game. Fourth game.
Yeah, we can talk about
after the real fourth game. Or after the real third game.
Right. Okay. Cool. And then obviously we'll have some fantasy football talk possibly in that one a little bit too. So excellent.
There we go.
Thank you guys. We'll do it again in a few weeks.
All right, gentlemen. Thanks.
All right.
All right, see you
Lamar
guys.
Jackson rules.